My name is Hannah Tran, and I was hired as a junior graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm in the city. At least, that's what my contract said. In practice, I was the team's unofficial emergency parachute. My days were a mix of formatting someone's rushed slide deck, choosing stock photos for campaigns I wasn't even part of, and being asked to add a little flair to last-minute requests thrown at me hours before deadlines. I didn't complain. Not out loud, anyway. I was still new, just 6 months in, and like many others fresh out of school, I was trying to prove my value. I thought being helpful would get me noticed, get me respect. And that Friday afternoon was no different. I had just finished a small project, redesigning icons for a lifestyle brand, and was hoping to sneak out of the office early. But as I packed up, I heard that all-too-familiar sound. Ping. An email from Marcus, our team lead, with the subject, "Quick help needed, big project, tight deadline." I clicked it. He needed someone to work on a high-profile government client pitch, due Monday. The art director was on vacation, and our usual senior designers were tied up with other projects. "You're good with visual storytelling, right?" Marcus said, suddenly appearing by my desk. "Can you mock up something modern? Clean? Sharp? We need a full visual concept, branding, logo options, color palettes, maybe even a sample social media ad or two, just to show them the range." I blinked. "For Monday." He grinned. "You're fast. And besides, you're the only one I trust to do this well." Flattery. Classic Marcus. He made it sound like a compliment, like he was giving me an opportunity. But it wasn't a promotion. It wasn't overtime pay. It wasn't even my job. Still, I said yes. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to be the person who said no. I told myself maybe this time would be different. Maybe I'd actually get credit. So, while my coworkers headed out for happy hour, I opened a blank canvas in Adobe Illustrator and started working. And kept working. Through dinner. Through midnight. Through most of Saturday. By Sunday evening, I had crafted a full visual identity package. A minimalist, government-appropriate logo. A brand style guide with primary and secondary colors. Font pairings for web and print. Sample ads for social and email. A complete pitch deck with animations. It looked polished. Professional. Clean enough for a federal agency, creative enough to stand out. At 11:52 p.m. Sunday, I sent it to Marcus with a neatly organized folder, full documentation, and a short message. "Here's everything for tomorrow's presentation. Let me know if you need changes." I didn't sleep that night. But I was proud. At least, until Monday came. Monday morning, I arrived at the office groggy but hopeful. I brought a coffee the size of my forearm and sat quietly at my desk, waiting to hear how the pitch went. My email inbox was silent. No reply from Marcus. No feedback. Not even a thanks. I told myself to be patient. After all, big meetings took time, and this was a government contract, one of the biggest accounts our team had tried to land in months. By noon, I overheard someone walking by say, "That presentation blew the client away." My ears perked up. By 2 p.m., I saw a few department heads gathered around Marcus's desk, clapping him on the back. I could hear their voices through the low cubicle walls. "Great work, Marcus. Very clean. Bold direction. Love that visual identity, you really captured the tone. Didn't know you had that kind of design eye." I waited. Any minute now, I thought. He'll call me over. Mention my name. Tell them I stayed up all weekend putting it together. But instead, Marcus smiled, thanked them modestly, and said nothing. That evening, I checked the company's internal newsletter. We sometimes spotlight team wins. There it was. Marcus Nguyen delivers powerful visual pitch to federal client. Thanks to Marcus's creative direction and composure under pressure, our design team submitted an exceptional branding proposal that left the client deeply impressed. I read it twice. No mention of me. Not even a footnote. That night, something in me cracked a little. I wasn't just invisible, I had become someone else's shadow. All that effort, all those late hours, my missed weekend, turned into his resume bullet point. And no one seemed to know or care. The worst part? The praise kept coming. On Wednesday, in the middle of our weekly team sync, our department head walked in with a certificate of recognition, laminated and shiny. "Let's all give Marcus a hand," she said, smiling, "for stepping up and delivering one of the most effective branding presentations we've seen this quarter." Everyone clapped. Except me. I was frozen. My name wasn't even mentioned in passing. Marcus nodded, accepted the award, and smirked like it had all been his idea. I wanted to scream. Or cry. Or at least leave the room. But instead, I just smiled tightly and applauded like everyone else, because what else could I do? I was the junior. The quiet one. The supportive one. But inside, a fire had started. And I wasn't going to let it go out this time. After that team meeting, I went back to my desk and sat motionless for a full 5 minutes. My screen was still open to Illustrator, the same software I had used to design that award-winning presentation, the same one Marcus had hijacked. I stared at it like it had betrayed me. The next day, something shifted in me. Quietly. Deliberately. I stopped volunteering. When someone asked me to quickly clean up their report layout or tweak a few visuals for a last-minute deck, I responded with, "I'd love to help, but I'm already at capacity with my actual assignments." And then I started building something for me. I opened a fresh, online portfolio. I uploaded every version of the designs I had created for that pitch. Not the final exported PDF Marcus had sent to the client, but my original working files, with timestamps, edit history, mock-up drafts. I even wrote a breakdown. Logo design and rationale. Color theory tailored for governmental use. Presentation formatting and storytelling flow. Each section had my initials on the bottom corner of the early sketches. My digital fingerprints were all over it. That weekend, I applied to 3 companies. Just casually. No pressure. I told myself I just wanted to see who might be interested. By Tuesday, 2 had called back. By Thursday, I had an interview scheduled for the following week. By Friday, I had a job offer, 25% higher salary, a lead designer role, and full credit on every project I touched. But I didn't quit right away, because I had unfinished business. The following Monday, Marcus was invited to present his design approach at a cross-departmental seminar. You could see the pride practically oozing out of him. He wore a blazer, printed out a few mock-ups, brought donuts for the team. But when he started presenting, something was off. He stumbled over the fonts used, couldn't recall why certain color choices were made. When someone asked how the visual direction aligned with the client's prior campaigns, he paused for a few seconds too long. That's when my manager turned to me and said, "Hannah, didn't you help with some of this?" I cleared my throat, looked directly at her, and with a calm, steady voice I said, "I didn't just help. I created the entire design, concept, mock-ups, revisions, the deck layout. All of it. I even have the full project history saved if you'd like to verify." The room went silent. One of the directors raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you designed that branding package?" I nodded. "Yes, over the weekend." Marcus forwarded my files for the pitch. I didn't look at Marcus. I didn't need to. The silence behind me was thick with discomfort. My manager looked stunned. We'll follow up." That afternoon, HR scheduled a meeting with me. I expected it to be tense, maybe even confrontational. But instead, the HR manager offered me a bottle of water and thanked me, sincerely, for my honesty and professionalism. Apparently, mine wasn't the first complaint they'd heard. The days that followed were awkward, to say the least. Marcus stopped dropping by my desk with quick favors. He didn't send me tasks. He didn't even say hello. His once confident stride turned into a stiff shuffle every time he passed me in the hallway. Meanwhile, the silence from upper management was deafening, but not idle. Whispers started to travel. A colleague from HR passed me in the break room and gave a small nod. The head of creative walked by and said, "Nice work on the federal pitch." "I heard you led the visuals." A sentence like that might seem small, but for someone who'd felt invisible, it meant everything. On Friday afternoon, an internal memo hit our inboxes. Short and clinical. Effective immediately, Marcus and Gwen will be transitioning into an internal operations support role. Please direct all future design-related questions to Hannah Tran or the senior design team. I read the sentence twice. He wasn't fired, but he was quietly demoted, pulled off client-facing projects, and tucked away into administrative work where creativity wasn't needed and recognition rarely came. No announcement. No applause. Just a quiet shove into the shadows, the very place he'd once left me in. But that wasn't all. My manager called me in for a one-on-one meeting that same day. I walked in cautiously, unsure if I was about to get more empty praise or another ask to help out. Instead, she slid a folder across the table. "We want you to stay," she said. "We realize now you've been doing senior-level work without the senior title. That changes today." Inside the folder was a formal promotion letter, lead designer, salary bump, full benefits, and most importantly, creative credit on all future campaigns I led. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I just smiled, because I had already made up my mind. The following Monday, I submitted my 2 weeks' notice. My new agency had called back to sweeten the deal, a bigger role, my own junior designer to mentor, and a spot on their innovation team. It wasn't just a step up, it was a leap forward. When I turned in my notice, my manager looked stunned. "Is there anything we can do to change your mind?" I shook my head. "I appreciate the offer, but I've already accepted a position where I don't have to fight for credit. It's time." On my last day, I cleaned out my desk slowly. People stopped by to say goodbye. The nice ones, the quiet ones, the ones who had seen me work late nights without complaint. But not Marcus. He didn't say a word. Didn't even look up as I walked past his desk. Before I left, I did one last thing. I printed out the design mock-up, the one that won the federal pitch. On the bottom right corner, where Marcus had once cropped out my watermark, I added a bold line of text. Designed by Hannah Tran. Original file history available upon request. Then I pinned it to the corkboard above his now barren cubicle wall. 2 weeks after I left the company, I received a LinkedIn message from a former coworker. "We miss you already. The office isn't the same without your calm during chaos." Also, Marcus applied to another team. Didn't get in. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. By then, I was already immersed in my new life, a creative agency in the heart of downtown where ideas flowed fast and credits were shared publicly and proudly. On my second week, the CEO stopped by my desk after reviewing a pitch I helped design and said, "I don't know who made this, but they understand balance, narrative, and tone. Was this you?" I nodded. He smiled. "Good. Then you're presenting it." It wasn't just about the praise. It was about being seen, finally, for who I really was, not just an extra pair of hands behind the curtain. And yet, even as I moved forward, echoes of the past still found me. About a month into the new job, I received an unexpected email. It was from the government client, the same one we had pitched in that now infamous presentation. They had reached out to request the source files for further design expansions. The ones Marcus had sent were flattened PDFs, unusable. But the agency had listed me as the lead designer in the proposal credits, so they came to me directly. "Hi, Hannah. We loved your visual strategy for the presentation. We'd like to discuss a potential contract for a full brand rollout. Are you open to freelance collaboration?" I sat back in my chair and smiled. They had found me. Not Marcus. Not the company. Me. I politely declined the freelance role. Agency policy didn't allow outside client work, but I offered to lead the project through my new agency. By the end of the week, we signed the client. It was full circle. Later that evening, as I left work, I passed by a coffee shop where I used to meet my old coworkers. I paused outside, watching two interns in company jackets flipping through presentation slides, talking fast, probably preparing for their first big pitch. And for a moment, I saw myself, tired, hopeful, unsure if all the extra work was worth it. If I could go back and talk to that version of me, I'd say, do the work. But document everything. Know your worth, and don't wait for permission to be proud of it. A few weeks later, I logged into my personal website. I added a new tagline on the homepage. Not just a designer. A storyteller who claims her own story. Because in the end, that's what I learned. You can take my hours. You can take my slides. But you will never take my name off my work again.